Hey guys, Richard Miller here from Miller Type Foundry, and today in this video I'm going to go over how to use Opentype features in Adobe Photoshop. Now the reason that I'm creating this video is I've been a professional type designer for over 10 years, and in most of my fonts I include a few Opentype features, and I've always had the thought that I really wonder if designers out there are completely utilizing the Opentype features like they should be. So I figured I'd create a few tutorial videos to let them know how to properly use them and get the most out of the fonts they have. And I've already done a couple of videos about InDesign and Illustrator, so here's how to use Opentype features in Photoshop. So without any further ado, we'll get into it. The first Opentype feature that I'll get into is Oldstyle Figures. Now basically what Oldstyle Figures is, they're for numbers, and they basically make the numbers smaller so that they fit into body copy better. So if you've got some body copy here, you'll see that the numbers, because they're all the same height as the cap height, they kind of stick out like a sore thumb. And they're kind of just like they really attract your eye straight to the numbers here, almost as if a word was in all caps. So someone invented Oldstyle Figures to basically make them smaller so they don't stick out so much. So in order to access the Opentype features, if you go to Window and then you go to Character, it'll bring up this character palette here, and then you click on these this little hamburger menu thing here, and you see Opentype, and then this is your Opentype features. So if we click on Oldstyle, then you can see how these numbers here got smaller. And basically now that these numbers are a little bit smaller, they blend in with the body copy a little bit more. If we switch back and forth between the regular ones, you can see how those are bigger, and like I said, they kind of stick out like a sore thumb. But the smaller Oldstyle Figures, they blend in better with body copy for a sentence. So this is a font that I designed about a year ago called Uniform Pro, and basically it incorporates these Oldstyle Figures right directly into the font. It's not a completely separate font you have to download, and just for Oldstyle Figures like they did back in the day. You know, with Opentype, it's just already built into the font, and you just go through the proper menu and you can toggle back and forth between those. So that's Oldstyle Figures. Another useful, another thing that Opentype features is fractions. So let's say you're designing like a recipe or a menu, and you want to say this is 1 2/3 cups, and you could type it out like this, but you know, this is kind of ugly. The best way to do it is if you highlight, is to just do a true fraction. So if you highlight these numbers here and you go back to the Opentype part and scroll down where it says fractions and you click that, and it basically inserts the numbers that are designed to be superscript and subscript, or the numerator and denominator with the fraction mark. And this is not just simply a 2 that is shrunken down. So if I just were to take a 2 and just shrink it down here and make it a little bit higher, you can see how much thinner this 2 is compared to the normal rest of the font. Whereas this fractional 2, you see how it's thicker, and it blends in better with the rest of the normal numbers and normal letters. So you can't just simply shrink down your numbers to fit, because like I said, it looks too thin. The ratio isn't as good. So basically these fractions are numbers that I hand designed, handcrafted to fit at a smaller size with the rest of the numbers and the rest of the letters. So you access that through fractions. Again, if I want to make this 5 1/4 grams, go up here to Opentype, fractions, and then it just automatically converts it there. And now, if I type something in here, it's all stuck in the fraction mode. So that's fractions there, pretty straightforward. Next is Alternates, and basically here's a font I designed called Tactic Sans, and it's kind of like a military theme, gaming, used for various things like that. But I created these alternate characters. So if you highlight go back to the Opentype palette and click Stylistic Alternates, and you can see it's changed some of these letters. So the A here, you can see how the alternate is different than the regular A. The R is different here in the leg, and then the I here with these horizontal beams as opposed to the regular I. And these are characters that I designed into this font, into Tactic Sans. And you know, that way it's kind of like it's two fonts in one. It sort of gives it a completely different feel, some of these alternate characters. So like I said, if you want to access those, it's just right here, Stylistic Alternates under Opentype palette. And next we're going to do ligatures. And ligatures are basically letters that are, when you have two combinations of letters next to each other, they change. So if I have the word raft here, when the F is by itself and the T is by itself, you can see there's this little spur on the left side of the T. But as soon as F is next to T, you can see that spur disappeared, and that's a ligature. Basically, I designed it into the font. This is a uniform rounded, the font I designed a while ago. And when the T is next to the F, that spur disappears, and the reason for that is you see this large area of negative space here, this big white space. If there was no ligature, then that space would be really big and it would really draw your eye to it and be quite an eyesore. So if you do want to turn ligatures off, you just go back to the Opentype panel and standard ligatures. Now this is going to be checked by default. So if you uncheck it, you can see that it'll disappear. And you can see here, see this big white space, how it kind of just draws your eye to there. And it really is kind of an eyesore. So that's why I created that ligature there, so that when the F is next to the T, it happens. But like I said, if the T is by itself, the spur is there, so it doesn't look like a weird stylized T under normal circumstances. Same here with the two Fs next to each other, where that spur disappears, or there again to reduce the white space between the two Fs. So that's ligatures there. Another use of ligatures that I found is extremely useful is in this font. This is Uniform Pro again. Basically, if some of these wingding things, some of these wingding characters in various designs that I've created, you know, it's a big hassle to find a wingding font, find what character creates the box, and then input it in there. But what I found is if I use ligatures, it actually makes it a lot simpler. So this box here is actually a ligature. So if I delete it, you'll see it's just the left straight bracket, and then when I type the right straight bracket, it instantly turns into a box. And this font, Uniform Pro, it has other ligatures built in. So if I type a left parentheses, and when I type a right parentheses, it just instantly turns into a circle. So this is really useful if you're creating like a checklist, and if you wanted one of these boxes to be checked, if you put a plus symbol in the middle, and it becomes a black box. So no plus symbol is empty box, plus symbol is a filled in box. This arrow thing here is actually there again, it's just a ligature. And you'll see if I do a hyphen with the greater than symbol, it creates an arrow. If I do a parentheses around that, then it creates this filled in symbol. And if I add more parentheses outside of that, then it creates, similar to this one, it creates the one with the outline. So those are some pretty cool, and like I said, if you turn ligatures off, you can see what goes into making these characters look the way they are. So like I said, this is not a wingdings font. These are just ligatures that are creating these cool wingdings here. So hopefully this video helps you understand Opentype fonts a little bit more for Photoshop. I know the capabilities in Photoshop are not as good as in InDesign or Illustrator. And honestly, you know, if you're adding typography to a piece you're doing in Photoshop, it's probably best to do it in InDesign anyways. But, you know, if you're just doing something real quick that, you know, maybe you're creating a thumbnail for a YouTube video or something, then you can use the few Opentype features here. So that's that. Definitely subscribe to this channel. If you like typography, you want more tutorials about typography. If there's any specific questions you had about typography, like I said, I've been designing fonts for over 10 years, so I might be able to help you out with some questions that you have. And if you're interested in picking up any of these fonts that I've created, just check out the links in the description below, and I'll see you again in the next video.